Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. From the world of comic books comes one of the most popular collections of costumed heroes of all time, featuring a who's who of adventurous icons fighting to protect humanity from all threats while also battling real-world criticism and scathing reviews that threaten to cripple their cinematic world. We're talking about the DC Extended Universe. The DC Extended Universe refers to the film projects featuring characters and storylines created under the umbrella of longtime publisher DC Comics. The films are produced and released by Warner Bros., the multimedia giant and parent company of DC. Previous Warner Bros. And DC films such as Richard Donner's Superman franchise, as well as Tim Burton and Christopher Nolan's various Batman movies, do not fall into the DC Extended Universe, as it only includes films released from 2013 to the present. The first movie to enter into this new shared universe of characters is 2013's Man of Steel, which was directed by Zack Snyder. The film featured the origin story of Superman, inserting the character into the modern era for the first time since 2006's Superman Returns. Unlike previous versions of Superman, Man of Steel featured a hero who was much more subdued and affected by the real world around him. The charm of the Donner films was gone, leading many longtime fans to openly criticize the movie. Those critics were outraged by the film's final battle, which features Superman murdering General Zod. This set the tone for the DCEU for years to come. Indeed, it was Snyder's gritty and more realistic take on the heroes that formed the environment in which they lived. The same was true of 2016's Superman v Batman: Dawn of Justice, which introduced an older version of the Dark Knight who also committed murder during the film. The third top-tier hero to receive a big-budget film was Wonder Woman, which was released in 2017. The movie was a departure from the dark tones of Man of Steel and Superman v Batman and took a more lighthearted approach to the characters. This ultimately resulted in Wonder Woman becoming the best reviewed film of the DC Extended Universe. All three heroes came together with Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg for 2017's Justice League, which also received harsh reviews from critics and fans alike. Zack Snyder was once again at the helm but was forced to leave the project, and the film was finished by Joss Whedon. The end result was a mix of two separate visions for the characters and the story, leading to the film flopping at the box office. Other films in the DCEU include The Suicide Squad, Shazam, Aquaman, and Birds of Prey. Future films include Black Adam, Batgirl, The Flash, and sequels to Aquaman and Shazam. Though it has not quite captured the imagination of fans and received mainstream praise the way many believed it would, the DC Extended Universe continues to move forward. But devoted fans feel that with the commitment from the studio, as well as the popularity of the publisher's vast world of characters, the future of the DCEU is very bright indeed. And that's the lowdown on the DC Extended Universe. So in the beginning, for comic book films, there was nothing. It was just a big blank canvas. And then Superman happens. And Phil, you and I talked before on the show here about what was the first comic book film. I believe it's 1978's Superman. Now, if you're not counting serial, like the serials, you're not counting TV series, you're not counting anything of that nature. But the fact that the first biggie, the first grand superhero of the age, is the Man of Steel, obviously. So the first big film that really we were talking about was 1978 Superman, which, by the way, that's a future episode of the 6M. I'm anxious for that one because I still love that movie. Fast forward now, all these years later, Marvel Comics has an entire universe, films, TV, streaming service. I mean, they've gone far beyond anything that I could have possibly imagined. I mean, ever. DC's had some hits along the way. I mean, Chris Nolan's Batman, things that just make you believe in this stuff and say, okay, this thing's got a future. DC's hitting it out of the park. They come to play, man. They're at the table. They're swinging hard. All the cliches, right? But this year, um, calendar year 2021, marks 8 years for what has been coined the DC Extended Universe. The first film, 2013's Man of Steel. Not quite the glorious occasion, the monumental achievement as the 78 Christopher Reeve Superman, in terms of throwing fans back on their heels and saying, "Oh my God, have you seen this film? And this is, you will believe a man can fly." And we didn't really get that with this film. It's got its good points, it's got its low points, but overall, I think the general reaction to Man of Steel kind of set the tone for what we refer to as the DC Extended Universe. This is going to be real easy to do, to just do nothing but bash this thing in the head with a bat, Negan style. We don't necessarily have to do that here, kids. And I don't think, Phil, that that's our intention. But talk to me about the DCEU. When someone mentions that, what's the first thing that jumps into your head?
Um, Probably Zack Snyder, just because how divisive he's become, how divisive his filmmaking style has become, and everything that's going on since Justice League released.
He certainly seems to have the keys to the car, or at least he did. It's funny
Yeah,
now how Warner Brothers has like distanced themselves from him. But man, they gave him everything in the beginning of this thing. At the birth of the universe, they gave it to him, right?
yeah. I mean, if I understand correctly, Justice League was supposed to be a trilogy. He had some more Man of Steel movies in the works, but um, Batman versus Superman happened. It tanked commercially and financially,
Yes.
and well, it just I don't know, that kind of hampered everything from that then on. I'm just amazed at this point that people are still so into the Snyder Vision. Even after we got the Snyder Cut on HBO Max, there are still people trying to get the restore the Snyderverse thing off the ground. And he just released a quote about that, if I'm remembering it correctly. And he was saying how the company is anti Zack Snyder's Justice League, and you know we can, basically, there's still a chance that people support the movie. And I'm just like, no, it's dead. Like, just let it die. It's over.
Yeah, let it die. I'm sitting here trying to think about, has there been an occasion before when a creator has been so closely associated, not with a film, an entire universe, like a grand cast of characters? George Lucas in the Star Wars universe, obviously. Um, God, geez, can you think of anybody else off the top of your head that's so closely associated with a universe of characters like this? I
Hmm.
mean, apart from Kevin Feige and Marvel, obviously.
No. I think just because he was given so many opportunities straight away, and I mean, you can agree or disagree with that. I don't think that he is a bad filmmaker. I just don't think that what Justice League and the DC universe is needed that kind of vision for it. Um, if he was doing other movies, it might not have been that bad because he's done movies I've enjoyed. But yeah, I don't need to see his vision of the DC universe.
I mean, we got a taste of it, and anybody that wants to go back and watch those films is welcome to. I've done it for purposes of this show, and sometimes, man, honestly, I've sat back and said, "All right, Tom, stop being such a freaking fanboy critic. Enough's enough. These are comic book films. You're supposed to be supporting the genre. You're supposed to be, get on my horse and do this." Man, it's some of this stuff's hard to watch, man. I just got to be honest. It's just the DC from the onset, and you and I have done DC related shows in the past where we've tried not to compare. I'm not necessarily comparing; it's more contrasting. Okay, which is what this group of creators has tried to do over the past year since 2013's Man of Steel. They try to differentiate themselves from everyone else, mostly Marvel. So it's got to be dark. It's got to be the slow mo. It's got to be the hair whip. It's all the Snyder signatures. that they're still using, that he uses like crazy. And, there's some little cursing thrown in, whole lot of blood, murder, murder, murder. Have I mentioned murder? Death, 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 chaos, explosions, scorched earth. Of course, I say this, and in Avengers, they destroyed New York City. So I shouldn't go too far off the rails with that analogy. But man, what about the tone of DC? And this is not just the DCEU we're talking about here, Phil. We're talking about the comics as a whole, the TV, um, video games. Just this idea of we have to be dark, we have to be gritty, we have to be bloody, we have to be Arkham Knight, we have to be, um, all the time with this supposed future, this injustice stuff. I mean, it seems like that entire narrative has completely taken the DC universe over. That's all I hear about now. It's the only thing I read. It's the only thing I ever see anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to look at their vision for everything they do, I mean, the best word you could probably use is scattered because you've got what he's doing that's very dark, and then you have like their television stuff on the CW is very lighthearted and it's brightly colored. It's nothing like the movies. I mean, even when you look at the Wonder Woman films compared to Zack Snyder movies, it's a completely different tone. Um, I mean, you could say the same thing for Shazam or Aquaman. So it's just all over the place. Like there is no shared vision throughout this thing.
No one unifying underlying vision. No Kevin Feige. That in a nutshell. And it's like the last 5 minutes of this show should be Tom sums it up. But that in a nutshell is the thing. There's no Kevin Feige. There's no one guy. Dude, Zach was supposed to be that guy, wasn't he? Wasn't he supposed to be that guy? And if he wasn't, is that the problem that he wasn't the guy from the jump? If this is who you're going to tie your cart to and he's the horse, fine. But why didn't he have input in Aquaman and Shazam and all those other films? Why didn't he have the God spot, as it were, and say, okay, here you go, Zach. Here's what we're doing with this film. We want you in the room at the creative meeting. And why didn't that happen? I mean, who at Warner Brothers didn't like this guy? I wonder.
It seemed like that's where they were going until Batman versus Superman didn't do well because that changed everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think once that didn't do well, the studio was like, we've got to do something about this. Like, we can't keep pumping money into these movies if, they're not getting received well.
And it wasn't. Just the idea of, well, the second movie in this universe is going to be Batman against Superman. And dude, when I first heard about the title of that film, Batman v Superman, I immediately dismissed it. I dismissed it as being nothing but rumor, conjecture. Some comic book columnist somewhere on a website wrote it, and someone took off with it, as this stuff usually tends to happen. Maybe Kevin Smith just said it off the cuff one day, and everyone said, "Oh, Kevin Smith said this is what it should be called," because people do that all the time to him. And so then when it became, no, no, this is what they're going to call it, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How do you how do you kick off a universe with the second film, Batman v Superman? To me, that you're already making a statement. This is going to be mayhem. This is going to be dark. This is going to be Dark Knight Returns. This is, I don't know. To me, it's like they set themselves up to fail with the second movie even before the thing even got released.
Um, well, I mean, I think that's the problem with Snyder in some ways because he has his style of DC comics that he enjoys, and he clearly likes the Elseworld stuff. He clearly likes like the Frank Miller stuff. Um, and I feel like if you're gonna do stuff like that, it has to be earned. You can't just jump straight from okay, I'm starting a new universe to okay, let's go straight into like the Dark Knight stuff that Frank Miller did. Like you have to earn that. You have to get to that place first.
Yeah, it did seem like it wasn't a lateral move. It was like swinging for the fences right off the bat. I just don't. Maybe that's out of 7 or 8 movies. That's the seventh film. That's not the freaking second movie. Again, you're setting the tone for it. So much stuff wrong in that movie. I've voiced this many times in the past. Bruce Wayne's first thought was, well, I got to kill him. The fact that a Bruce Wayne in any universe would think, well, I got to kill him. That's, I can't even, to me, that shows a complete lack of understanding. And I don't care how much of a fanboy Snyder claims to be, I don't think he gets it. Is that the problem, dude? That maybe he doesn't even get it, these characters to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just has his interpretation of what he wants them to look like. And I mean, if you only read Frank Miller's interpretation of Batman, then, that's what you're going to like. And I mean, not to say that that's all he read, but that's clearly what he likes. That's clearly what he's referencing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you don't enjoy any of the other interpretations, like I've read where he doesn't like Robin, for example. So if you don't understand some things from the other interpretations, or at least appreciate them, maybe you shouldn't be the guy that's steering the ship.
I mean, instead of making it verses, why couldn't it have just been called World's Finest? Every comic book fan on the planet knows what World's Finest means. I mean, that's Batman and Superman. That's, I don't know.
Yeah. I always had this idea for Batman versus Superman that, like, if if you get to the end of this movie and they're having this fight, and like he is going out his way to try and kill Superman, and then at one point Superman like gets the best of him and rips a part of his armor off, and he has a star on him. I was like, that would have been it. That would have
Oh,
completely made up for all of it.
I love that. That's great. Dude, that's great. Starro, right? That goes all the way back. Is that that's the first issue of JLA, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, Starro's going to be in the new Suicide Squad movie, from what I
Yes.
understand. But
Yes.
that would have been a great way to, do all of this stuff with Batman versus Superman and make it make sense. You could have always said that, Bruce Wayne was acting irrationally because, he was being controlled. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff in that movie that just doesn't work. The Luther stuff is all over the place. Yeah, it's it's a mess of a movie.
I mean, I don't know. I like Eisenberg as much as the next guy, but I think it's, if I say he's miscast, that's a cop out, it seems like, and I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I don't know if he's miscast. I just, because he's quirky and he's eccentric, and I love that guy as an actor. I really do. But I don't know. Does he feel like Luthor to you? You think?
No, I think he's very much miscast. I think if he's like Riddler, I think he's perfect.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, as Luthor, it just didn't work for me. Even when he shaved his head and he was more in line with what Luthor should look like. It still just didn't work for me because he's a little bit too jokey. He's a little bit too monologue-y. It just didn't work.
It's funny because everyone's trying to do Gene Hackman. There's only one Gene Hackman, kids. I mean, Spacey tried to do it too in Superman Returns. Poor imitation, and we don't have to talk about Spacey too much because yikes. But I didn't think he needed to do all that. I think he could have just acted and would have been great. But just this idea that we have to mimic someone else's performance, and I don't know that he's doing that. Eisenberg's probably not doing that, but I don't know. It kind of feels like, well, Gene Hackman set the bar. We got to get there. But Hackman had a way of being that slimy sort of, God, this guy's a complete jerk, and he's the worst kind of person, but he also had that real charm about him, and you couldn't tell if he was serious or not. Then he was kind of, he was genius, but he was kind of at the same time, well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, and but it was his plan, and it's like, it takes a rare breed of an actor to be able to pull that off. And I don't, I look back at Hatman's performances and I don't see anything that makes me go, oh, come on. Like it was pitch perfect. But I look at Spacey and Eisenberg both and I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling it, dude. I mean, I don't know. Did Hackman set the bar too high for portraying him? Why not just go to the book for source material to see how this guy should behave? it's almost like they missed that part.
Yeah, I don't know. And, Hackman's a different breed. Like a good part of why that stuff worked is how well Hackman played off of everybody else.
Yeah.
Like I still think, I still think his best line out of all of the movies is in Superman 2 when he's talking to Zod and Zod goes, "Why do you say such things? You know I would destroy you for it." And he was
Yeah.
like, "And extinguish the greatest criminal mind of our time, Lex Luthor."
Yeah. Right. Because he's like, when I could give you the one thing, when no one else can, he's like, Superman's address. And Zod knew the word address. That kind of stuff jumps into my head. Like, how would an alien know what the word? Okay, fine, whatever. So I just let that go. But yeah, you're right. His delivery was great. Just perfect, man. Yeah, this should have been the Superman 1978 episode, but that's okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's, it's almost like this like man was it not Man of Steel, but Batman v Superman is a Batman and Superman movie. If you tilt your head and squint your eyes a little, it's Batman and Superman, but it's not really because, like you said, it's one guy's interpretation. And the problem is, I think, is the guy. I don't know, dude. Is Zach the wrong guy? At, is this entire conversation uh, pointless because maybe they had the wrong guy? What do you think?
I think so. I think if you wanted to make certain kinds of DC movies, Zack Snyder's perfect for it. Um, he definitely has like the aesthetic for stuff like Watchmen. But I don't know if I would want him to do my entire cinematic universe because he just paints it all in the same brush. Everything is dark. Everything is drab.
Right.
It's like I just don't want to see all of these characters in these dark, gloomy storylines.
And they often, they meaning basically everyone on the planet, pointed out that Gal Gadot was the standout. She was a breath of fresh air. She was the bright spot, and she was. But in my head, she wasn't near the bright spot she should have been. I don't think it was enough to pull the second movie out of the mud. Even though she lights up a room, and the minute she's on camera, she chews up the scenery. I mean, she just, first of all, she looks amazing. She's got this charm about her, very very Gene Hackman-esque, I guess, in a way, because she knows what she's doing, and she grasps the character, and she knows how to play it. She's very subtle. It's not too on the nose with her, but dude, there's so much bad going on in that film. It's hard for me to stick with her and go, well, I can watch it now because she's in it. Nah, it's still pretty bad, man. You know. Um, Plus, it felt like they were trying to do too much in that movie at the same time. Doomsday, Wonder Woman, Luthor. I mean, it just felt like a lot.
Yeah, I just don't think they gave themselves enough time to build up each character in time for Justice League, and I think that showed a lot in Batman versus Superman. I think some of these characters, because public consciousness knows who Wonder Woman is, they might know Aquaman as a name. Same thing with Flash, but I think you needed time to give these characters their own enough screen time so that people would care about them before you just threw them in a movie. Um, and I mean, not to jump into, Marvel got it right because Marvel did all these solo movies first before they did Avengers. But I think that that's part of why uh, DCEU struggled because they were trying to do so much so fast.
Yeah, it's like they're late to the party and they're trying to make up for it by wearing a really pretty dress, but it's not working for them. I don't know. Yeah, it's uh, uh, trying to do too much at one time, and again, I said earlier about differentiating themselves from Marvel, but then they tried to do the same thing that Marvel did, and I'm like, why even do the Justice League film? Why even go there? Why can't you just do the solo films first? Give it some years. Do Man of Steel Part Two. Do, I don't know, what's the sequel after Batman v Superman? Batman, well, World's Finest. Make that the sequel. I mean, do Aquaman 2. Do Wonder Woman 2. I mean, let's get some movies under our belts here, and then we can talk about a Justice League film. I don't know. Even if you go there, which obviously you probably shouldn't have. I mean, dude, if you think about the timeline here, Man of Steel came out in 2013. We got Batman v Superman 3 years later. We got Suicide Squad, which is loosely related, right? Same
Yes.
year, 2016. Wonder Woman 2017. Justice League 2017. These are all within 4 years of each other. That's insane to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a little bit too fast. And I mean, when you say they're late to the party, they're technically not late to the party because I
True.
mean, DC had a leg up because they already were tied to the biggest production company in the world in Warner Brothers. Um, Marvel didn't have a production company. They created a production company from scratch.
Right.
Um, they didn't have the rights to all their flagship characters. DC did. Warner Brothers had the rights to use all of those characters from day one. And so it's just weird that it took Marvel making all this money for them to go, man, we better do a Justice League movie. It's like, no, you guys could have done a Justice League movie years ago. You guys could have made a Wonder Woman movie years ago. Um, it shouldn't have taken this long. And I mean, you can go into some thought of, why did they believe the best idea to start their universe was to go back to Batman and Superman straight away when they had already made so many Batman and Superman movies. I
Yeah.
mean, you could have started by introducing new characters first. I mean, I think that worked out for Marvel because Marvel was putting fresh interpretations on screen right away. They were putting characters that, most mainstream fans didn't know yet on screen, and that helped them because it was new. It wasn't just that it felt new because they were bringing them together. It was new because, nobody thought we were going to get an Iron Man movie, for example.
Yeah, and that's how they kicked off the universe. I mean, we don't have to talk about that. The ill-fated Green Lantern film. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that was not good.
not good. I mean, I've always been of the belief that maybe the DC Extended Universe should have kicked off with John Stewart Green Lantern. That's how we do it. And we keep it centralized. You can mention the bigger picture like they did in Shazam. You can allude to the fact that there's a Superman, there's a Batman, but keep it to John Stewart. Keep it to him, his neighborhood, his family, his life, his existence. And then if you want to do something in the post credit scene, then you tease something. But like, I don't know, man. Like putting the audience on the shoulder of Tony Stark in the first Iron Man worked in so many ways. I think John Stewart could have been that character for the DCU had they gone that route.
Yeah. To me, I mean that's similar to Final Frontier and how
Oh yeah,
um
yeah.
well New Frontier, I'm sorry. New Frontier and how New Frontier kind of builds up around Green Lantern's origin. And I feel like they could have done the same thing here. Like all these characters already exist in that universe, but we're following Green Lantern's origin.
I mean, Darwin Cook had a template right there, had the
Yeah.
blueprint. Why, dude? Hindsight 2020, kids. That's the theme of today's episode. This is all hindsight. Why not just follow the blueprint of New Frontier and just God, can you imagine what we could have gotten had they just done that?
Yeah, and I think that speaks to what Marvel did well. They used they used the Ultimates as a template, and then they also added in all of this stuff from like the original Avengers run and all this other stuff to kind of build around. Um, I think if you had a distinct thing you want to build around to start this, it goes better. But to just go, yep, well, I like Frank Miller books, so let's try and get all of these visuals on screen and let's cherry pick all these ideas that don't really work if people don't know what we're referencing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're doing inside jokes and inside references to stuff that the casual audience doesn't get. Yeah, I totally get that. Um, we don't have to, recast the entire universe here, dude. But how different is the conversation if Chris Nolan was at the helm of this, and we were talking about Christian Bale and Brandon Routh instead of Zack Snyder, Henry Cavill, and and Ben Affleck. How different is that conversation?
Ah, that's so interesting. If they had started this around the time of Batman Begins instead of waiting, I don't know. And see, I just don't know how much Christopher Nolan wanted to touch that kind of stuff because he made his Batman movie so grounded.
Yeah.
Um, and so once you put stuff in there like flying aliens and you know mother boxes and all this other stuff in there, it's like that's that's not his wheelhouse. Yeah, I mean, I think keeping a younger Batman was the way to go. Going straight to an old Batman and having him grizzled and all that stuff is like it's too soon to do that. Like it's just
Yeah.
if you're gonna create a universe, you can't just jump straight in with that, in my opinion.
I just sat here and painted the picture of the character that gets you in. Maybe Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne was the Tony Stark of the DCEU, or could have been. Like he's the guy. He's the millionaire playboy that's got the secret life and got the tech, and he's the one the audience connects to, and so we go with him on the ride into the rest of the universe. My God, that's a different universe, man. That's an entirely different conversation, dude. That's wow. Just to wrap my head around that, that's interesting stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I think Batman Begins is kind of underrated because everybody is like Dark Knight is the best movie of that trilogy, but Batman Begins is a really really good movie.
Excellent film. Yeah.
And I actually, in some ways, I it's a close second for me in that trilogy because I thought it handled his origin really really well. I think that was the best depiction of Bruce Wayne we had gotten probably that up to that point.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think it's kind of an odd reference, but like Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne looked great because he was a good looking guy. Looked good in the suit, looked good in the tux with the glasses and everything. I thought physically he looked like Bruce Wayne, and it made sense. Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne was scatterbrained, not all there, distracted all the time. You could tell it wasn't. He didn't really flip the switch, but Christian Bale completely flipped the switch. Like the voice, and man, people always crap on the voice. That growl that he had. What is the problem with the voice? My God. I mean, dude, if I had to take my choice between Christian Bale growling like that or Affleck having a voice modulator, come on, man. I'll take the growl. It's real. Like you said, it's grounded. I mean, what else are you supposed to do? I'm Batman. Are you supposed to lower your voice like you're a cartoon character? Are you supposed to scare the crap out of these guys? I don't know. That's a mini rant.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I don't think anybody has done the voice change as well as the animated show. I
very
think
true.
Kevin Conroy did it better than anybody else. His Bruce Wayne voice and his Batman voice are very distinct, but
Yes.
they're not over the top.
I mean, let's call it for what it is. He's probably the best Batman of all time, isn't he?
I would say so. I think he is. I mean, you can make a strong argument that Mark Hamill's the best Joker as well.
Oh, yeah. I have no problem making that argument. That's argument we win all day. Yeah. No doubt, man. Are the two main leads of this extended universe are the two main leads miscast?
No, I think Henry Cavill is great. I think he wasn't given a chance to actually be Superman in the way that I want him to be Superman. He wasn't hopeful and all these other things. He was kind of too mopey
Yeah.
and quiet for me and reserved for what I believe Superman would be. But he looks the part. I think there were bits in Whedon Whedon Justice League where he felt like Superman to me. Um, and so I think it's possible that he could have done well in the role with a better script and a better movie. I think Affleck is. I think he's only miscast because I think if you're going to start an origin film for the Justice League, I think you should have gone with a younger actor. Affleck's just a little too old for me.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the gray in the hair. He's bulky. It's so funny because they went back and did the Snyder cut, and he had lost that weight, still in great shape, but he'd slimmed down, and it was obviously a lot of time had passed. Uh, but they kind of just snuck that in with the Martian Manhunter and all that stuff.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's more he's doing more humor in the Snyder cut, and he's more likable. He's not as dark and distant. I was like, how does this work with the with the universe you already established? It's just I
Right.
don't know.
And there again, dude, the template's there. It's not as though they don't have a guidebook. They've got years and years of books, years and years of TV and movies, and some of the best writers, forget the term comic book writers, some of the best writers of all time have laid their hands on Superman and Batman. And it blows my mind that we can't pull a good story, good characterization, plausible plot, believable, like you said, grounded. I love that word. But at the same time, it's fantastic and it's larger than life. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. Switching gears for a sec, how do you think in the midst of all this, how did Suicide Squad fit into this thing as the dude? It was the third film out the gate, man. How did that even? First of all, how did that happen? Second, how did it fit being the third film in this?
Man, there's so much stuff with Suicide Squad that should work. They have good actors in this thing. I mean, you've got Will Smith, you got Margot Robbie, you've got a star-studded cast for this thing. I mean, you picked a perfect Amanda Waller. Um, it is just boy. I mean, I think the biggest misstep with going Suicide Squad so soon is that you had already started with 3 movies that are so dark. So it's like Suicide Squad isn't different, right?
Mm.
Like if Marvel had done a Thunderbolts movie, like right in the middle of building their universe, it would have felt different than anything else they were doing because it would have been, based around villains and it would have been, dark and grim in a way that their other movies aren't. It would have given a different tone. Like this was not a different tone at all. It was just in the same wheelhouse. And so then we're also supposed to root for the bad guys here, but the bad guys are not, how do I want to put this? They're not compelling enough as characters to
Mm.
to really make them interesting. I mean, you could say that Will Smith's character, Deadshot, is interesting, but is he really interesting because it's Deadshot, or it's just that it's Will Smith in a comic book movie and we want to like it?
It's Will Smith in a comic book movie. We want to like it, and he's got a little girl, and she's cute. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he delivers some of the lines in that thing great, and I think he's fantastic in Suicide Squad, but he doesn't really feel like Deadshot to me. Um, I mean, Margot is she's bought in. Like she's bought into all the Harley stuff. She is at this point Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
But I just don't feel like I just don't feel like that movie did a good enough job making me care about that team. And I'm curious to see what the second movie does. I'm sure James Gunn will come with some better direction and a better story. But boy, Suicide Squad was kind of a mess.
I I personally think part two is gonna knock us out of this out of the chair, man. I think it's gonna be. I think it'll be. We can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait to tell everybody about it. The people that hate the DCU, we can't. I think it'll be. Listen, I know you hate those films, man, but you've got to go see Suicide Squad Part Two. It's freaking phenomenal. Honest to God, I think that's what we're going to be saying when this thing hits. I just think there's too much going for it. And I didn't feel that way with the first one. I felt like there was too much working against it. I don't feel that way this time. I think they've got there's too many pluses for this film, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that straight away this looks different because it's not as cloaked in, all of the dark and shadows and all this other stuff. Like it actually has like bright colors. It actually has a different aesthetic to it. So it already looks interesting. The trailer already looked cool. I mean, and you can count on James Gunn to bring some great music. So
Yeah.
just everything around it looks better than what we got the first time around. I don't know, man. If this is a way to salvage that and we get more movies based around the Suicide Squad, I'd be here for it. I think the idea of a team full of villains is interesting because you could do so many different things with it. But I just think the first one, it was just like it didn't feel like it had any real stakes.
Yeah, I still think, yeah, you're right. This one it'll be much different. I mean, John Cena's in it, kids. And dude, they're moving forward. He's filming the Peacemaker series for HBO Max. I mean, it's they love John, and you know what? I'm happy for him because it didn't come easy to him. I don't want to say easy because Rock put the work in. I mean, let's be real, he did. He was in some clunkers before he ever actually started making some, you know, box office hits, right? But it seemed like it came to John a little bit differently. Like John's very self-deprecating, great sense of humor. He knows he's the big white jock with the big, puffed up body. He knows what he looks like. He's perfectly fine with poking fun at himself. I think that's part of his charm is that people go, "Oh, he's in on it. I get it." And if he can laugh at himself, then you can enjoy him. And I think that's one of the things that I don't know, man. He seems very humble. Maybe I've got him pegged wrong, but the way he comes off is that he's kind of humble and he doesn't put on a front in front of anybody. And I think that's one of the things that's gotten him this position. I think it'll be a good thing for that film that he's there. And it's obviously good for his career. I can't wait to see what he does in this.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be great. I think if anybody can pull a great performance out of him, it's James Gunn. Um, and I mean, he's done comedy really well, so I think he's gonna fit perfectly. It's kind of a surprise that he hadn't done anything comic related before that. Because I mean, of course, he has like the body type to do it. Um, he's got personality. Um, so yeah, I mean, I hopefully this is good. If it's good, I definitely would be interested in the spinoff.
Yeah, I actually can't wait to check it out. I mean, before we get too far into what's coming in the future or may not be coming or what's in the pipeline or whatever, it seems like they've got some bright spots ahead. There's some good things happening. It's funny that we're talking about Suicide Squad as maybe they're, getting their head above water for the first time in a long time. It's funny it's going to come from that. Hey, I've got something for you. And again this is Monday morning quarterbacking, I guess you could call it. Um, what if we just kicked off the DC extended universe with the Suicide Squad?
Um, hmm, that would have been an interesting choice. I don't know how well that would have worked. Yeah, I don't know if that would have worked that well, but I mean, it all depends on how you executed it. Um, yeah, it's so interesting because they do have bright spots coming up, and I almost feel like going backwards and doing the Snyder cut. It was like they kind of ignored that they have kind of moved forward since Justice League.
Yeah.
Because I thought they had some better movies since then. Like I thought Wonder Woman was a good movie. Wonder Woman was before Justice League though.
Yes.
But I felt like I felt like that first Wonder Woman was good. I thought Aquaman was fine, and I really enjoyed Shazam. So I felt like they were moving in a good direction. I know a lot of people like the Birds of Prey movie, so it just seemed like they were heading in a good direction. I'm surprised that they were like, yeah, let's go backwards and do the Snyder cut for people.
Oh man, I got to be straight with you. I still haven't watched Birds of Prey.
It's an interesting movie. I don't think it's a Birds of Prey movie. It's basically a Harley Quinn movie.
Hmm.
Um, but if you like Margot in the role, you're gonna enjoy it. I think it's a fun enough movie, but I wouldn't say that it's, in my, must watch list.
Um, so we've discussed this before about the possibility of Aquaman being miscast. They get good actors in this universe, and then when they get them, you're like, wait a minute, he's who? Why? Like, I still maintain that he's Lobo.
Yeah.
He's too hunky to be Lobo. Is that what it is? You don't want to cover up that face with paint and all that in prosthetics. Is that what we're talking? Is that why they? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. But what person said, "Hey guys, I got this great idea. What say we get Momoa to be Aquaman?" Like, I don't know, man.
I mean, I
Still,
think that was Snyder's casting.
well, there you go.
I think I really like Momoa. He doesn't seem like Aquaman to me. I
No.
I think you're right, and he would be much better as Lobo. Um, I enjoy him in Aquaman movie, but he's still it's still kind of like we're trying to do this gruff, um, barbaric version of Aquaman, and depending on your interpretation, it's just not what most people think when they think Aquaman.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's different. I like him a lot. And it, it almost feels like, well, look, we want him in this universe because he's awesome. He's the best guy. He's the best kind of guy. He's great. He looks great. Chicks love him. He's funny. He's ripped. He's got everything we want. He's got a great sense of humor. He can act. Oh, let's just make him Aquaman. It almost feels like, eh, well, let's just write a part for him, which may or may not be the answer here when we're talking about a superhero film. But if this were not a superhero film, it'd almost be like, well, let's just write a part for him because I don't know. It just kind of feels like he's not. I don't know, man. It's not working. I don't know who. I mean, all right. So fantasy cast this for me. If you don't get him, who do you get for Aquaman? When all this was happening, who else do you think?
Hmm, that is a good question.
Do you go with the traditional blonde hair, blue eyes, or do you? I don't care that he looks different. It makes no difference to me at all. Um, would I have liked it if the colors would have been there? Yeah, sure. I would have. Dude, they went out of their way. God, dude, I'm doing it again. I apologize. I know I told you I was going to do this, but I'm going to do it. I don't care. They went out of their way to craft Downey's goatee to look like Tony Stark in the comic because they knew it mattered. They knew it mattered that he had that face. And the DC people were like, oh, we'll just get this guy to be Aquaman. He doesn't look anything like it. So I'm telling you that I don't care. But a lot of me does care because it's like the attention to detail is just not there, you know?
Yeah. I think if you just got like oh, you know who you could have gotten, which is actually kind of funny when you think about it. They could have gotten Chris Hemsworth's younger brother. I think he looks the part.
Wow, I like that. He's got two. There's Liam. Is that it?
Yeah, there you go, Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah. I was actually thinking Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
Yeah, I like that.
they had their idea of how they wanted this to look, and I'm like, if you're into the Arthur Curry with the hooked hand and like the long hair and everything, yeah. But I mean, again, that's just not how you want to start your universe. I mean, you got to build to that.
Yeah, you got to get there. You can't lead off with the guy living in the ocean, right? I don't know. I don't know. I guess again, I'm recasting and re coordinating this whole thing. Is Aquaman the first film? Talk about grounding it. I mean, even though you are putting it in Atlantis and whatnot, all this other stuff, but you can single it out and you can put the story down to just him, like I was talking about a possible John Stewart kind of idea. Maybe it would have worked if you had let off with him.
Uh, Maybe so.
I don't know.
I mean, again, like I said, I enjoyed the Aquaman movie. I just I don't know if Momoa would have been my pick. That was my only real beef with the Aquaman movie. In in Justice League, he was just kind of there. It didn't feel like he it didn't feel like he had grown into the character yet. He felt more like the character in his own movie.
Talk about another film that doesn't really fit the whole. I don't know, maybe the timing of it or whatever. Shazam, which is it's a pleasant surprise. There's a lot of things about this film that bother the crap out of me. Zachary Levi's great. He looks great. And if this is the route you're going, is that, hey, Shazam is really Billy Batson. And Billy Batson's a kid who's kind of, you know, he plays video games and he's trying to drink his first beer. And it's, so why wouldn't Shazam as a man be like that kid? Because that's basically who he is. So I get that. And the comics have done a fine job. Animated series done a fine job of that. There's a lot of stuff about this movie that feels off to me, and I didn't dislike this film at all. I don't know. maybe I begin with Shazam and I don't begin with anything else. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Shazam. I mean, there's just so much stuff that I thought they got right about it. I I think that the thing that DC didn't understand right out the gate is you could have you could have done things that Marvel couldn't do with Shazam. Like you can market Shazam to kids in a way that they couldn't market some of their movies to kids. Because I mean, at the end of the day, Billy Batson's a kid. Like you're revolving this whole thing around like a kid in school in elementary school. Um, so there's so many things you could do with that. And I thought they did a fine job with it. I think that's probably the best cameo they've done so far when they've done connected universes stuff. Like having Superman show up and have lunch with him. Like I thought that was a great nod. Like we didn't see his face, but I thought it was great. I enjoy the humor of that movie. Yeah, I really like Shazam. I'm looking forward to the second one.
Yeah, and I don't know. Let's see, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, slated for 2023, but a year before then. Speaking of the People's Champ, we're getting Black Adam. I have no clue what's happening here. I could probably connect the dots and think and maybe figure it out. I don't know. This is just going to feel like The Rock in a superhero suit, which is basically what Black Adam is, I guess.
Um, yeah, I mean, Rock has been cast for this movie for over 10 years.
Yeah,
He's
right.
been cast for this movie for a long time. Um, yeah, I don't understand not making him a villain and not putting him in a Shazam movie straight away. It seems like they're gonna give him his own story and make him like the protagonist. But Black Adam's a villain, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand not making him like the second villain for Black Adam, like for the second movie. Um, I thought that's where all of this was going, but they cast Black Adam before they cast Shazam. So it was just like, hey, we got The Rock on board. Well, what are we doing with him? I don't know, but we got him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you had to take The Rock with that body and that face and those muscles and put him in a comic book universe, I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think of what Marvel character do you make him, hero or villain?
I mean, it's perfect casting. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It feels like it's the right fit.
yeah, it's perfect casting, but it you can just tell that they were like, well, he has interest in playing Black Adam. That's about the best casting we could do. So let's get him on board before we have plans for anything with him. Let's just get him on board.
Will that be the most financially lucrative film the DCEU has ever done, you think?
Ah,
I think it'll
maybe.
have the highest box office. I think it'll make the most money. I don't know if it'll have great reviews, but I honestly think it'll make the most money. And I think it'll perform over budget, far over what everybody thinks it will, honestly, because of him.
Yeah. And maybe that's the answer why you didn't make him a villain in Black and Shazam. Because he's too big of a star to make him a secondary character in a movie. Like he is a leading man. So if you get Rock, you're gonna give him his own movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure feels that way. Let's talk about the fastest man alive.
Oh
The
man.
Yeah, you can't wait. the one character that, and we haven't mentioned the TV shows at all because I don't consider it part of the DCEU because the DCEU doesn't consider it part of the DCEU. Um,
Yeah.
like the whole what do they call it? The television universe, because you got the one guy in charge.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I know oh man, I can't think of his name. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But yeah, like we haven't mentioned that at all. But you and I both have sang Grant Gustin's praises for a long time, and I will continue to do so because Ezra Miller is not my Flash. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I
he's just
think
not.
they I think they should have used Grant in the movie. And if they weren't going to use Grant in the movie, they had a perfect chance to do something different other than do the Barry Allen stuff again.
Yeah,
It just did make sense to me. If you have like this popular interpretation of Barry Allen already on TV and it's public consciousness, why go back and go, okay, here's another Barry Allen? It's like, okay, but why? You're confusing your audience. It would have been like if they decided, let's recast Daredevil while the Daredevil movie Daredevil show is doing really good on Netflix. Like, but why? I mean, you already have this hit show.
yeah,
Why are you why are you creating competition for your own product?
for your own
It's weird.
product. Yeah, exactly right.
Um, so to me, I thought they should have used Wally West for the show. And I mean, I'm a much bigger Wally West fan. I was never a Barry Allen fan growing up. Barry Allen was dead by the time I started reading comics.
Good
Um,
point.
so I thought, I'm always of the opinion that Wally West is Flash to me. He's my Flash. He was the Flash in the Justice League cartoon when I was growing up. He was the Flash in all the comics when I was growing up. So I thought this was your chance to just use Wally West in the Justice League movie. Nope, we're just gonna do Barry Allen again and do all of his dad's in jail stuff again. Uh,
I mean, Ezra Miller is Wally West. Period. That's it. It's a perfect fit. He's his mannerisms. He's a kid. He's kind of out there. That's Wally West. That's not Barry Allen. He is not Barry Allen. To your point, at all. Yeah, they could have left out the bit with his father in prison. Called him Wally West. Perfect. Barry Allen is a cop, for God's sake. Not this guy, but they've got him. What in the Snyder cut? He's applying to the. Didn't he like?
forensics,
Yeah,
forensic school.
out of the
Yeah,
blue.
yeah. Barry is a forensic scientist in the comics, and he's forensic scientist in the Flash TV show.
Yeah,
But yeah, even in the Flash TV show, you can make the case that a lot of the stuff Barry does, he's very much like Wally West. I don't know. To me, I think they should have done something different for the movies. I don't think Ezra's great casting. I think his Wally is better. I mean, not his Wally, but his Flash is better in the Snyder cut in some ways. But I just still wasn't that into it.
right. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about the Black Adam being the most financially successful film because they're throwing a whole bunch of stuff at this Flash movie. Um,
I think you could have made it into this, different success story if you tied it to the TV show and you did other things with it. Then I think you could have.
yeah.
You had Ezra Miller appear in an episode of the Flash show. So
Yes.
why it just never made sense to me that you were doing both at the same time.
When they met face to face, that was awesome. That was as much as I don't like him being cast in the role. I thought that was a nice touch. I like the fact that the DC Extended Universe people were, you know, at least going there and now you've laid the groundwork because I don't think on the Flash TV series they've ever referenced that again. So you could always go back and revisit that if you wanted to on TV and say, listen, there's something I didn't tell you guys when the crisis was happening, but I kind of saw another version of myself and it didn't make any sense because he just disappeared. And it'd be like, wait a minute, what's going on? And that might be cool. Um, what about this Flash film, man? This thing is slated for 2022. It's the Speed Force saga. It's um, uh, it's him going back in time. It's. I mean, supposedly that's what we're looking at here. What do you think about And dude, we're hearing all kinds of rumors that Keaton's back and Affleck might be in it, and they've all been announced as being there. And I don't know, man. What's your take on this?
I think it's another example of how they want to do too much too soon. I think if you're gonna make a solo Flash movie, make a solo Flash movie and get us interested in a character before you throw us into this big crossover event where you have all of these other characters in a movie that kind of take up screen time that you could use to develop this version of Barry Allen.
Yeah, trying to do too many things at once. That's a great point. Because they really are. But maybe this will make the most money. I mean, we're talking about more than one Batman in this film, and
Yeah,
he's going back through time, and he's doing what they did on the TV show. Basically, they've already done it.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I I want a Flash movie to do well. Flash is one of the coolest characters they have in the DC universe, and I just don't feel like they're doing anything that different with him that necessitates doing this movie. I think I think jumping and going, let's immediately do like a Flashpoint S story right away is
Yeah.
kind of a mistake. Um, just establish him as a hero first. Establish him as a solo character, the same way that you did with Aquaman and Wonder Woman.
And yeah, if they do the Flashpoint thing, that's going to be something to see. I don't know. It I don't know. It does feel like too much. It does feel like it's I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be proven to be wrong, and this film will be utterly watchable, and will do everything that we the comic book fans would like to see it do. But I don't know how I feel about it. I still don't connect with him as Flash at all. That's one of the problems I have, dude. It's so bizarre. Maybe bizarre is the wrong word. If you really in your head go think about the MCU and how not every single casting choice is perfect, but dude, 95% are dead on, and the proof is in the pudding because you've seen them act and you're like, "Oh my god, he is Thor. Oh my god, she is Black Widow." Like I mean, I just don't I'm not feeling that connection. I think that's even if Marvel weren't a comic book company and it was just a series of movies, it would still feel like this feels right. This feels like this is what they got the right people for this. I'm just that lack of connection, I think, is what's killing it for a lot of comic book fans right now, you think?
Yeah, I can see that, but I mean, I think the closest we've got is Wonder Woman. I think Gal
Yeah.
Gadot is about the best we've gotten so far in terms of casting. And again, I think Henry Cavill could be a great Superman with a better script. I think he embodies a lot of the things we want to see in Superman, but we just haven't gotten that hopefulness and all of the other things that you'd expect yet. I don't know if he's gonna do more movies. But if you got somebody else to direct a Superman movie and he was the lead, I would be interested. Um, but I don't necessarily want a direct sequel to Man of Steel.
No. No, you keep him you keep I don't know how you feel about Lois. How do you feel about Lois for real?
I think she's fine. I don't think she feels like enough of her own character. Like when you think Lois, you think like somebody who's determined and,
Yeah.
you know, independent and all these other things. It just felt like they rushed into, okay, we got to marry him. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, well, we've only done 3 Superman movies. Why are we rushing into marrying them?
Yeah,
Like
she wasn't
establish her as her own character first. Give her own motivations and things outside of Superman.
I mean, the new Clark and Lois show is dude, it's so good. How much of that have you got to watch, man?
I haven't seen any of it.
Oh, dude, you need to take the time. I'm telling you, you will very much appreciate it. Once again, the TV got it right versus the big screen. It's crazy. That first episode will knock you out because it's like, man, I think they've got it. I think they've got good chemistry here. I mean, she's Lois, 100%. She's a go getter. She's a rebel. She's bullish. She goes for the throat. I mean, it's exactly what Lois should be, and he's Clark for sure. I mean, it's just the TV show fits these characters better than the movie does. To be honest, you got to give it a chance, man. Talk about what's in the future. We've referenced Black Adam, Aquaman 2's on the horizon, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. I like the title. Peacemaker, we know is going to happen. We've
Uh,
mentioned the
Wonder Woman 3 at some point.
yeah, Wonder Woman 3. We've mentioned the Dark Knight. Um, Robert Pattinson as the Batman. Here we go with another Batman movie. Um, and it's not a guy that we already know. It's not Affleck, and it's I don't know, man. Again, I don't know how to feel about this. You've seen pictures. We've seen a little bit of video. What's your first thoughts about this?
I mean, it looks interesting. I think Pattinson it could be an interesting Batman. I think he's a little small, but we'll see. Um, I really like how the movie looks. I like what it looks like they're doing with Riddler. Um, yeah, this could be a good movie. I mean, depending on where they want to go with this Batman universe, they could do new storylines. They can do new characters. Um, so I'm interested. I'm interested in seeing. I mean, I can't say that I'm that thrilled that we're doing yet another Batman origin movie.
Right.
Um, I kind of just feel like it's time to move on. I mean, you've done so many Batman movies. I don't know why they won't do a Batman Beyond movie. I've been asking for that for years. I feel like that's the next step. If you're gonna bring Keaton back for anything, bring him back as old Bruce Wayne that's mentoring Terry McGinnis. Come on.
Yes, 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 and yes, and yes. You know, you could do Batman Beyond on TV. Technically, you could. They're already
I
doing
mean,
Batwoman.
there's so many ways you can do it. You can do. I mean, you've got HBO Max now where you're doing content directly for the app. There's no reason why you couldn't do like a limited series about Batman Beyond for HBO Max.
I love that idea. Greg Berlanti is the CW creator that we cannot remember, by the way.
There you go.
The Berlanti verse. Man, the Batman is slated for March 4th, 2022.
Yeah, it got pushed back, right, because of
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. I assume we're done with everything. I think it's done, right? All of it. I think.
Mm.
I,
Yeah, we'll see. That's definitely one I think they want to wait until crowds are back so they can put that one in theaters. They're not going to release that one direct to HBO Max.
yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just I don't know. And the bits and pieces I've seen, he looks good. I think he looks fine. I don't see an issue with how he looks at all. Whether or not that's going to be enough to save it or make it entertaining or make it believable, who
Yeah,
knows?
I think they've got a good director for it. So I'm interested to see where he goes with it. His Planet of the Apes movies were really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's so funny, man, because I didn't want to spend this hour bashing this, and I don't think we have. I think it's more of a constructive criticism kind of episode here, where it's like I don't think you're either one want this thing to fail. I don't want to see them fail. Every time a comic movie has like a misstep or a comic book universe has a misstep, like I don't know what you've heard about the stuff that's happening on Netflix with Jupiter's Legacy, but I am not hearing good things at all. Like
Mm.
it's getting panned, man, across the board. So every time things like that happen, it makes me worry about the future of this stuff. And I want comic books to stay in this medium for a good long time. I don't want to see it trend out as some high profile directors have predicted in the past several years. I think there's always going to be a home for great comic book films, man. I want to see DC be able to pull us out and Warner Brothers. Um, can they do it to the satisfaction of the fans? More importantly, can they do it and honor the source material the way it should be honored? What do you think?
I think they can. I think they've got to make up their mind on what they want to do. I mean, if you're going to move forward with all of these same movies, you already have your set um, schedule going forward. I don't think it would be a bad idea to do like a soft reboot and basically reboot everything and use some of the characters you still have and use some of the stars you already have on tap and just keep moving forward. I mean, I think people want these movies to be good. I mean, I don't think anybody's sitting like I want to see Justice League fail because I mean that was a big dream for a lot of people to see Justice League together on a big screen. So I think long as they make a decision on how they want to move forward and they don't just kind of waffle, I think they'll be fine. But if you're gonna keep going back and forth with Snyder at this point, I that's not gonna help you.
It really feels like the honeymoon's over with him and Warner Brothers. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he'll be back in an hour, being announced as the the know all end all be all of the DC cinematic or extended universe, I should say. Who knows what could happen, man? It feels like the bloom fell off the rose a long time ago with that guy in Warner Brothers, and they did the Snyder cut to humor the fans and to humor him for some weird reason, and then now they're done. It's all right, fine. We gave you your stupid movie, now get off our backs about it. So I don't know. Dude. I agree with the sentiment that you gave in our review of the Snyder Cut. Is that once you do that movie, you are basically saying, well, we'll do whatever you want, just don't hate us. Like, I don't think the Snyder Cut even had to happen. We've already done that show, but I think that's more representation here. Another great example of how this universe is so disjointed and so out of whack and so it's just in a shambles. It feels like to me, even now with the future projects we just talked about and the few high spots that they've given us so far, it still feels like there's so much of a lack of cohesion, so much of a lack of cooperation, no vision, no vision, and no vision. The WWF would never have worked had there not been one vision at the top. And I think that's true of any large enterprise. No matter how big the enterprise is, what kind of company it is, you need one visionary at the top. And you don't have that with the DC Extended Universe. I mean, is that the overall problem here, you think?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that I think they are doing a lot of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. I don't think that they had the direct plan on how to make this universe work. And I think that's hurt them a lot. I don't know, man. It's so weird because they have managed to cast some huge stars. I mean, yeah, you can't get much better than some of the guys that they've gotten. I mean, I know straight away when they got Affleck, even though I didn't agree with that casting, it seemed like they were grooming him to direct a Batman movie. And I mean, just getting someone, with Affleck's name and prestige on to direct a Batman movie would have been a big push, but I just didn't work out because they didn't have a plan outside of let's cast him and get him to direct a movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, yeah, it's crazy. I don't get it. A lot of it doesn't make any sense to me. As I said, and I'm with you. It's just the fact that there's not one voice at the top, I think, is making a huge difference. And even if the idea is we need to get away from any kind of comparisons to Marvel, fine. Don't think about Marvel, but you need to have one guy at the top. Don't even think about Feige. It's fine. Um, I don't know. So, part of me still says it should be Favreau. Um, but I don't know. He's busy. He's doing the Star Wars stuff. I mean, I don't know. I think Favreau has the right blend of action and the right blend of humor, and he's got the right personality and he's got the right temperament. And I think that people love working for him, and he's great at establishing rapport. Is he the right voice for a DC universe? Well, the fact is, Phil, this thing has been painted with black for so long, right? That it's kind of now we kind of expect the next DC movie to be black and be somber and be, oh, everything's terrible, everything's on fire. The whole DC universe is on fire, the whole thing, and we kind of right, we kind of expect that. So I'm throwing
Yeah,
Favreau's name out there. Is Favreau even the right choice based on where we think they're always heading for this stuff?
I think you've got to get somebody that's enthusiastic about building this big universe.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just don't think they have that yet. I think they just have a guy that's like, well, he has a vision, so let's put him in charge. And it's like you kind of need more than that. because to me, you should be able to tell the difference between Metropolis and Gotham.
Right. Right.
You should be able to tell the difference between, Star City and other places. And I think that's a part of building this big universe. And I think, again, that is what Marvel has managed to do. I mean, we're all the way in Madripoor at this point. Like, yeah, I don't feel like they have built a universe. I feel like they have just made a bunch of movies. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, it doesn't feel like there's enough about each movie that's distinct. And I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, it kind of feels like maybe they should have just done all these separate movies and then just casually mention, like, one time Batman's name is mentioned in a Wonder Woman film and everyone just kind of goes, "Wait, who?" And they just kind of, it's a wink and a nod and they just keep going on about the film. They could have done that with every film. And then, like, maybe someone mentions, "Hey, well, I ought to meet that guy." Nah, it's probably a bad idea. And then they just keep going on, and then maybe never do a Justice League thing. They just keep focusing on individual characters. I don't know. I guess the temptation's just too much to take the people you've put on in these films and say, "All right, well, time to do the team film." But I don't know.
I don't see, and I don't even have a problem with them doing a Justice League movie. I just feel like I don't feel like they had the right guy to at the helm of it.
Yeah,
Everything I've read about his Justice League sequels sounds bad. I don't.
right.
I have no interest in any of it. Um, I think you've got to get a guy that wanted to not only just do the Justice League movies, but you had to have somebody that's doing two separate things. Somebody that wanted to do the Justice League movies, and somebody that had the vision to create an entire cinematic universe. Those are two different roles.
Yeah. And I think you hit on the right notion, the right word when you said someone that's excited to do this. Someone not only has a vision but can't wait to get to a big table with a legal pad and say, "Guys, I got some ideas." That's, I don't know, as a comic book fan, as a creator myself, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear someone say, "Oh, dude, wait till you hear this." And they just don't have that. They just don't have it. So how do you feel about the projects that are in the works that are? I mean, is it more curiosity than anything else, or do you think, man, it looks like they're on the upward trend here?
Some of it. I mean, I'm interested to see what they do with the next Wonder Woman movie. I wasn't a big fan of the second movie, but I still like Gal Gadot a lot in the role. I think with some different setting and not having to be so tied to this movie happened before Justice League. We gotta pay attention to continuity. Maybe they'll be able to do different things with it. I think this Batman movie can be interesting, but I think they've got to let it be its own standalone thing. As long as it's not connected to anything and they don't try and force it, it could work. I really like the idea of the stuff that they have going for HBO Max. I know they're working on a Static Shock movie for HBO Max. I think Static Shock is a huge missed opportunity for them. You're talking about leaving money on the table.
Yep.
Um, Static Shock should have been a movie that they were pushing way before this. That should have been a theater release. It should have been a big deal. Um, and I mean, I think that is something that I hope we're moving forward that they try different characters. They get away from doing the same three characters.
Yeah, DC's Holy Trinity. They live and die by the Trinity in that company, and for better or worse.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're proven moneymakers. Like if you know that you have Superman and Batman, the temptation to just go, let's just do that movie because we know it's going to do well. I get it. I mean, and other companies were able to go, okay, well, this is all we have. This is all we have to work with. Like when Marvel first started, they were like, well, we just have Iron Man. We have all of these D-list characters. This is what we have to work with. So let's make it work. And so I think because they have all their flagship characters, that it can kind of lead to laziness, for lack of a better words. It, I think there's so many things they could have done, that Marvel's just starting to do that they had access to beforehand. Like I was just telling somebody they're doing an Ironheart movie because, of course, Tony's dead and somebody's going to take on the Iron Man mantle. But they already had a character like Ironheart in Steel, and they at DC, and they didn't use her. I mean, they're doing Miss Marvel. They're doing a Muslim superhero movie. You had a Muslim superhero in Doctor Fate. You're not using them. They
Right.
had so many things they could have done beforehand, before Marvel even touched it. I mean, you're sitting on all of these great black characters and you're not using any of them. But hey, let's make black Superman for reasons. I don't know. I don't get
Right.
it.
Right.
It's so weird, man. It's like I don't know, man. It's like they really need somebody to step in, and I don't know if it's a studio meddling thing and the studio just won't get out of the way, but they definitely need somebody that is trusted by the studio to do these things.
Yeah, somebody who's coming at it from a different perspective. Somebody who can say, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to do Blue Beetle. I want to do it right, and Blue Beetle is going to be my jumping off point. And after that, I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and I want to do that." And well, what about Superman and Batman? Nope, not in my plans. I don't care about that. I want to start off. I want to start off here, and I want to go to this, this, and this.
Yeah, I mean, if they are serious about making this Blue Beetle movie, come on, uh, bring it on.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So sum it up for me if you can, Phil. What's your last word on the DC extended universe? It's tough, right?
They are. I mean, they've definitely had some stumbling points, but they still have a lot of real estate that they could work with. They still can make this work. They could turn this around at any point. I don't know how long it's going to take them to do that, but it's possible.
I think so too. As you said, they've got a lot left to work with. They've just grazed the surface. I mean, you talk about Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are your holy trinity, sure. And there's a lot of stuff a lot of stories you can tell surrounding them, involving them, and branch off from them. But there's a ton more characters they've got they still haven't used that have only seen the live date in animation or the books, or maybe not at all in terms of being live action. So a lot of stuff to work with, a lot of opportunities there. Whether or not they'll take advantage of them, whether or not any of this is going to work, whether or not you and I continue to do episodes where we're like, oh, did you see the film? Oh, and then it's like, here we go again. I'm hopeful that they will right the ship because I want them to succeed here. I want this thing to work. I want the future slate of projects here to all succeed. I want all this to prove me wrong. I don't want to go into this any of this hating it. I don't want to go into any of it hating it. I don't want to come out of any of it hating it. More importantly, as I said, I want all this to work. But as comic book fans, the only thing we can do is wait and see. Only time will tell. And that is the DC Extended Universe. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.